Now, as a lot of you, my subscribers, know, history is a subject very close to my heart. I cannot remember a day where it was never my favourite subject ever. Ever since I was a toddler, say 3 or 4 years old, I have retained a fascination with the past. It's not something I can easily put into words, it simply is, and because it is so important in my life, I don't like it when it is abused by scoundrels, liars and propagandists for their own ends. History is meant to be an education for those of us in the present to make the world a better place for those in the future. It is, in my opinion, a tool, much like science in a way, to further human knowledge. Obviously not as important in a lot of regards to science, but in expanding our knowledge about ourselves, not just our families, ethnicities, countries, but even the human race as a whole. It helps us learn about us as a people, to remember events, to uncover mysteries, and most importantly of all, to learn about the mistakes of our forefathers. It should never, ever be used as a tool to brainwash people into believing in whatever ideology or agenda the historian wants to impart on the audience. Why do you think authoritarian governments like the communists and Nazis use history to further their own power? Why do you think that they use parts of it to further their own goals and try to destroy the history that was inconvenient to their goals? Because history is a powerful tool that can be used to not only shape a version of the truth you want to impart on one group, but to actually uncover the real, raw truth. It can, to use the YouTube expression, expose people. So when I log on to Twitter during my work break and discover this video that has gone viral, my blood naturally begins to boil. Here in this video, we see a history teacher attempting to brainwash his pupils. Why? Well, because in this progressive world, we cannot be having children being imparted with the traditional liberal values that served us well for 200 years. We cannot be having them engaging in edgy jokes online. We can't be having them be critical thinkers. No, they must be critical theorists. Basically, this historian is using, of all people, PewDiePie as an example to scare these kids into conforming to the progressive status quo. But hey, why tell you when I can show you?
And by every time you retweet one of these things, or every time you promote this idea, you are promoting ignorance, racism, genocide, anti-Semitism. These are all things that you are putting forward when you are doing anything that promotes PewDiePie.
Now, it kind of starts cut off, which is very annoying, as I really wanted to see the beginning of the tirade, but clearly the kid only realised he had to film it much later on. At least that's what I assume. Hopefully this isn't entirely out of context. But immediately, we see that the teacher is trying to rally against the culture of not just old school YouTube, the real YouTube that downvoted the rewind video into oblivion, but of the internet as a whole. And if you really want to stretch it, Western liberal values, but fuck it, we're not going to get big brained in this video, I can't be arsed. But essentially, if you support PewDiePie, you know the meme that is going around to help him win against T-Series. You know that faceless corporate Indian entity that is a Bollywood product? Well, you're supporting racism, sexism, homophobia, anti-Semitism and Nazism if you support PewDiePie. Despite the fact that PewDiePie is none of these things, despite the controversies, and despite the fact censoring these things only create Nazis, not destroy them, is lost on this historian. Obviously, it's PewDiePie's fault. You know, we must protect the faceless corporate entities and we must support them in the face of the little guys. That's Marxism, isn't it, guys? But hey, let's continue.
So be careful about this. If someone decided to, if something were to happen, if PewDiePie were to be sued for this, you could be complicit. If you retweet it, they could make you pay a fine as well.
Now here is the fear aspect to all of this. Apparently, PewDiePie can allegedly be sued for making edgy jokes online. By the way, that is a very bold statement to make, as he hasn't attacked any known individuals, save for one anonymous person on a video game, which he didn't even really mean in a racial way anyway. But fuck context, guys, we have to scare high school kids or college age kids, however old these people are. You're complicit, you can be sued, because you dare back the little guy. Yes, I know Pewd is a rich man, but compared to T-Series, he's the little guy, and is a true representative of the actual YouTubers and fans of YouTube. You can be sued for supporting your favourite YouTuber. Not only does this stupid boomer show a complete lack of knowledge not just on Felix, but on internet culture and possibly even the law, history as well, funnily enough, and he shows a disregard to teacher-student relationship standards. This is the type of behaviour that I and many others have been trying to highlight for the past 4 years on YouTube, hell, even 5. I actually have seen this in my own classrooms. Schools and universities have become a hive of social justice, Marxist indoctrination. These teachers are not teaching their kids, they are brainwashing their kids. They are not even being impartial and teaching kids about subjects in a neutral manner. They are trying to inject their own views and philosophies onto these kids to mould them, to groom them into being activists, as opposed to nurturing their minds so they can think critically and come to their own conclusions. Fuck this guy.
because you have officially published anti-Semitic things.
Now, if this guy really is a qualified historian and teacher, he should know that none of this is anti-Semitic. He surely has read his Fisher, his Kershaw, his A.J.P. Taylor and all the myriad historians who have written on the Second World War. None of this is anti-Semitism. He's just fear-mongering and intimidating his students to fall back in line.
If you are republishing this stuff, you could get in trouble for it. Be very aware that that is a real thing.
They only get in trouble because moral authoritarians like you have created an environment where they can get into trouble for this. Whereas before we would have debated and informed each other online, now it seems we have this minority of middle class and aristocratic far leftists, with some far right people pushing too, deciding to police the internet. What this quote is not just a statement of what can happen, it is a threat. This whole tirade is a threat. This is what you hear Catholic priests, Muslim imams, street preachers, and even the Nazis and communists do. They use fear to push people into their ideologies. Fear is an excellent tool to use to get people to fall in line and believe what you say. Because the end result, they are told, is either death, hell, prison, their reputation's ruin, or whatever it is. Pure and simple, this is a threat. So here we are. I hope that the recent events this month make some people get their heads out of their asses and realise the SJWs are still very much alive and well, that they were never even rooted out of their strongholds, and that they cannot ignore this. If some of you ever saw an impromptu stream I did, I had a look at a manifesto that a Marxist feminist historian made, where she advocated for turning history into a subdivision of Marxist critical theory. Well, here is a foot soldier of the type of historian or history teacher that we need to be on the lookout for. I'm not saying they cannot have their views of history, they can, but when they bend history, when they try to subvert it and use it to brainwash and create power for themselves, well then, they just made me angrier. And by the way, those people who try to use history in such a way, especially these Marxists, and maybe a lesser extent the fascists, I think at this point, these guys need to be, I don't know, they need to be challenged. They cannot be allowed to do that because that's propaganda and that's not what historians are supposedly meant to be doing, are we? But then again, I have been told a few things that objectivity isn't really something we should be striving for. We shouldn't be fair. We shouldn't be trying to show the truth. No. Bias is okay, guys. I also hope that this shows people that the culture war is in almost everything. That because of the nature of totalitarianism, clue is in the name, by the way. We have to have a total war against it. I could go on, but this script is getting longer and longer. For those of you who left Patreon, I'm on Subscribestar now, and yes, I know about PayPal, but I have multiple ways of getting payments. So if you want to help me out there, link in the description. Until next time, it's been your boy, and I'll see you later.